one of the key elements to this is Trump's repeated infringement of this gag order. He has been fined, on 10 separate occasions for criticizing prospective witnesses. And we're actually seeing, New York City is making preparations to potentially imprison Donald Trump in Rikers Island, which I don't know if you're familiar with Rikers Island, but it's a notoriously poor prison. It's overcrowded. There's gang violence. There's been something like 30 inmate deaths in the last 3 years. So, I mean, there's all these sort of, subplots that are unfolding all the time. And it really is, making for quite sort of riveting, testimony and coverage.
Donald Trump's hush money trial resumes with more testimony from Stormy Daniels, the adult film star whose brief alleged affair with the former US president has already been the subject of much salacious questioning by prosecutors. Bevan Hurley is senior US reporter for the Times, has been covering the story. Bevan, set the scene for us. What are kind of the key takeaways that we've learned from Stormy Daniels' testimony so far?
Good afternoon. Yeah, so Stormy testified for just under 5 hours on Tuesday, where she described the sexual encounter with Donald Trump in a Lake Tahoe hotel suite in 2006 and the subsequent fallout from this experience that she alleged took place. Of course, Trump says that it never happened. She said that she was threatened in 2011 by an unknown man in a Las Vegas car park about going public with a story. This led her to agree to sign this non-disclosure agreement in 2016 on the eve of the presidential election. She said that she feared for her safety and that of her family. And she was really pressured by Trump's defense attorney, Susan Nichols, over inconsistencies in her statement. She has changed her account of what took place several times. It really descended into, some quite fiery and heated back and forth. And she's just moments ago taken the stand again when Nichols is continuing to press her on inconsistencies in her sort of statements over the years. We've heard that there has been a slight change in Trump's defense strategy. They intend to keep Daniels on the stand for as long as possible today, so we could be in for another full day of testimony from the former porn star.
So the defence, clearly, and you've hinted at this already, they're trying to undermine her credibility. How successful do you think they're going to be at doing that?
Well, Daniels does have some credibility issues in that she has, a history of being, sort of indulging in some, I guess you could say, questionable, professional conduct. She has written about this extensively and appeared in numerous interviews where, she has sort of told this story over and over again. But the defense did seem to succeed in prodding some holes in her testimony. Just this morning, the judge ruled that the defense team could question her on a prior arrest. So, I mean, I guess that all adds up in the jury's mind as to whether or not they can rely upon her evidence. It is backed up with sort of contemporaneous notes and text messages and other things. So I guess from the prosecution's point of view, they will be looking to sort of triangulate that evidence rather than rely solely on her account of things.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the dynamics been like? I mean, it feels extraordinary just seeing glimpses of what this court case has been like from over here. But for you covering it sort of day in, day out, how would you say it's, how's it going so far?
I mean, it's unprecedented, to see a former US president in court being accused of such tawdry sexual kind of misconduct and trying to cover this up and gaining benefit. It feels like a rerun of a lot of the things that we sort of went through in 2016 and then later in 2018 when Daniel's account came to light. So it is a bit of a sort of a Back to the Future type feeling, but yeah. There's a number of different things progressing on simultaneously. One of the key elements to this is Trump's repeated infringement of this gag order. He has been fined, on 10 separate occasions for criticizing prospective witnesses. And we're actually seeing, New York City is making preparations to potentially imprison Donald Trump in Rikers Island, which I don't know if you're familiar with Rikers Island, but it's a notoriously poor prison. It's overcrowded. There's gang violence. There's been something like 30 inmate deaths in the last 3 years. So, I mean, there's all these sort of, subplots that are unfolding all the time. And it really is, making for quite sort of riveting, testimony and coverage.
Yeah, it's a kind of a sideshow in itself, isn't it? Bevan, just while you're here, I wanted to ask you, we started this programme hearing about sort of the implications of what the US president has said, his statement last night warning Israel not to launch an offence in Rafah and saying, look, if you proceed in this action, the kind of weapons, the ammunitions that you're used to receiving from us, they will stop. How's that news been received in the US?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I know Biden has been staunchly pro-Israel throughout his decades-long career in the Senate and as vice president and president. So this is really quite a dramatic change for him. I guess he's feeling the political pressure in places like Michigan, where his support has sort of ebbed away. States with large Arab populations, and also among the sort of the younger voters, the implications of which we're seeing on the campus protests. Trump this morning weighed in on this on his way into court. He said that Biden's decision was disgraceful, and he said that if any Jewish person voted for Biden, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Right, shall we start off by talking about Stormy Daniels?
Absolutely.
Because she is a friend of yours, a colleague of yours. You've worked with her before. You are definitely our ear to the ground with Stormy Daniels. Have you spoken to her, heard from her over the last couple of days? How do you think she's doing?
I deliberately haven't texted her during this whole week because I imagine she feels quite under pressure and probably doesn't need more members of the media trying to get hold of her, even ones she knows quite well, I imagine. I also just think she probably needs to decompress at the end of being cross-examined, as she was on Tuesday afternoon and is being again today.
Yeah, from what I can
imagine
gather,
you'd want to turn your phone off after that.
Yeah, there's been quite a ding-dong today in court between Stormy and Trump's lawyer, who's a woman. And I think that's kind of not surprising, is it?
No.
That he would choose a woman for this particular role. But all the accounts suggest that Stormy Daniels is more than capable of holding her own.
Yeah, well, so I think there was probably about 2 hours at the end of Tuesday when she was being cross-examined by Trump's female lawyer, and it was very tense. And Stormy wasn't giving an inch. I mean, she's a tough cookie. And I did love the fact that when she was asked questions, which I think perhaps other people might have given softer answers to, such as, do you hate Donald Trump? She said yes. And when she was asked about the money that she hasn't paid in fees for this defamation case that she lost, she said, I'd rather go to jail than pay a penny to Donald Trump. So she's not backing down on the stand, even when under a very tough cross-examination, which, to be honest, is exactly what I would expect of her. But I think other people might buckle under that pressure. I mean, you are the star witness in possibly the biggest criminal trial, certainly, this year, possibly in recent history.
And you didn't choose to be there either, did you?
No, she was subpoenaed.
Yeah. What would happen? Would she go to jail for that money? It's what, $670,000?
$670,000. Potentially. I think it's unlikely. She could go to jail. Interestingly, they could sort of charge her for not filling in certain forms about that. So she was asked to fill in a form about a lot of personal information by Trump's lawyers regarding the fees that she owes him. And they could threaten to jail her for not even just filling in the forms, which is a formality. I mean, I'd say I don't think she's going to jail. I don't think Trump's going to jail. But we'll see.
Yeah, the case continues.
Yeah.